We just figured out. We just figured out. We just figured out. Cause we're really
blue, motherfucker.
Before we begin, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone for getting me past 100 subscribers. Yeah, I know, I'm slow, okay? Your support means the world to me. I am looking forward to making more videos for you all to enjoy. Also, a reminder that I do have a Ko-fi, so if you're interested in helping support the channel and keeping it going, please consider checking out the link in the description. All Ko-fi supporters get a special shout out at the beginning of the video released closest to their donation. Hello everyone, welcome to Multi-Level Mess. My name is Tori, and welcome to the Fictional Cult Breakdown. In this new series, I will be taking a look at depictions of cults in video games and movies, and discussing how they compare to real-life modern-day cults, as well as the tactics they use to recruit and control members. In my personal opinion, the media we consume has warped our perception of what a cult really is, making it more difficult to recognize them in the real world. While these depictions are all good and fun for entertainment purposes, it is important that we know how to recognize the warning signs of cults that actually do exist. That being said, oftentimes fictional cults tend to share similarities to their real-world counterparts. So I figured I'd have some fun and cover these similarities in this series. This is going to be a lot more lighthearted than my usual content. Now, really quick before we get into the video, if you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. I could also use company here in the graveyard. It's not that lively here. Thank you so much. Now let's get on with it. When I decided I wanted to make this series, the one cult that immediately came to mind and I knew I wanted to cover was from the game Earthbound, aka Mother 2, originally released on the SNES. Earthbound is a cute little game about childhood innocence and wonder. You play as Ness, who travels around the world with his friends. They have many wonderful adventures and experience many fun things, such as watching a new friend get casually murdered, gang violence, police brutality, loan sharks, a dad that calls at the work team. No, I'm trying to chase a guy, kidnap my girlfriend, and he got on my things a lot, Dad. Zombies, getting kidnapped by zombies, whatever the fuck these are. Hallucinations, the prince with the most unfortunate name, and having your soul stuffed into a robot. Oh yeah, and Gygus. Fun guy. World-conquering alien. Embodiment of evil. The universal cosmic destroyer, set to destroy the planet in the future. He's cool. Oh god, oh no, what are you doing? Stop that, no, why? During Ness's travels, he learns about a place called Peaceful Rest Valley, which is anything but, because there are robots and UFOs and evil trees that will literally set themselves on fire and they'll take you down with them with a fucking smile on their creepy, stupid faces! Nestled in this valley is Happy Village, the headquarters of a strange religion known as Happy-Happyism, led by Mr. Carpenter. Their mission is to spread their message far and wide and to paint the entire world blue. Look, they even painted this cow. It's cool though. He seems to like it. He's in a really good mood. God, that was stupid. At a glance, Happy-Happyism doesn't seem that bad, as long as we ignore the questionable attire. In fact, the premise of an organization just wanting to paint the world blue seems rather silly. However, there is more to them than meets the eye. First, let's take a look at their members. The seemingly lower ranks of members appear as regular townsfolk, wearing normal clothes and seemingly going about their daily business as usual, not being very noticeable, unless you speak to them, in which case they'll likely spout out something about Happy-Happyism or their founder. This woman may not stand out much at all at first, but if Ness gets too close to her, she'll run up to you and say that she's collecting donations to protect the world from contaminants. If you refuse to donate, she will follow Ness around until he leaves the area or enters a building. She is awfully persistent. While the doctor and nurse in the village seem to be devoted followers, but also willing to help heal Ness, the hotel owner will refuse to let him stay unless he says he's interested in learning about Happy-Happyism. If Ness says no, the owner will become angry and tell him to get out. If he says yes, he'll remind Ness to say his blue blue chants before bed. Some interesting quotes from these villagers include, "One day, Mr. Carpenter received a revelation. He now speaks the real truth. Mr. Carpenter communicates with the divine, so he is able to deliver inspired messages.
When I painted everything blue, like Carpenter said, my wife who had run out on me returned home."
You want to talk to Mr. Carpenter directly? You must think you're pretty important. And boy, do you have a lot of nerve. You deserve to be struck by lightning.
I think that those who won't paint everything blue are opposed to peace. I want them all to listen, even if it requires kicking their butts. You might misunderstand what I have to say, but Carpenter's voice affects one's mind, like a hypnotist. You don't seem to understand, so I'll explain it to you. When the world is changed to blue, a peaceful country can be established. Although you don't understand now, someday you will. When looking at real-life cult members, we can see some resemblances. Now, a lot of modern-day cults or cult-like organizations don't necessarily keep members within their watch 24/7. Things like meetings and services will often take up a lot of a member's time, and they will be pushed to spend more and more of that time doing things related to their group, but they also spend some time outside of it. Members may still have jobs, though if they do, they might be discouraged from working in certain fields or seeking higher education. After all, how else would they pay tithes? Sometimes women will be discouraged from working, though. This makes it easier to maintain some image of members having choice, of living their own lives and not being controlled. It's probably easier to bring in new people this way, as it makes it seem like they wouldn't have to change much of their lives to adjust. It also means they are available to evangelize. And while there are sometimes signs that these people might be members of a group, such as if they're dressed a certain way, on an average day, you and I would likely not be able to tell they are part of a cult. I'll call these types of cults the Among Us ones,
Because you never know when someone be sus.
I should be canceled for that joke. However, there are also instances where members may be expected or encouraged to live in a closed community with only others of the same group. The term compound often comes to mind, though this can also mean just heavily concentrated or exclusive communities. Some examples would be the Branch Davidians, Jonestown, the Amish, Bethel for Jehovah's Witnesses, and the entire state of Utah. I'll call these cults compound cults, just to keep it simple. Happy-Happyism seems to fall into the category of a compound cult that heavily encourages members to live in a more closed community. We do see some examples of some cult activity in the town of Tucson, such as a couple who goes to the village to become members but plan to return to their daughter back home with a souvenir of happiness. Or this person who chases you away from his house because he thinks you are another person coming to preach about Happy-Happyism. However, it would seem that most members reside in Happy-Happy Village and may be encouraged to move there. According to the hotel owner, the village is a place for members and their families, and they consider other members family. Ness is allowed to visit, but as a potential new recruit, and is only allowed to stay at the hotel by saying he's interested in the religion. Some members are willing to help outsiders like Ness, but others only wish to provide aid to their own. This is reflective of how some cults only seek to help other members in times of need, despite acting like they wish to better the world. One example of this was during Hurricane Katrina, when Jehovah's Witnesses called for action to provide help to victims of the hurricane and to rebuild houses. However, they refused to help anyone outside of the religion and only helped rebuild for other JWs. Another parallel we can look at is some of the language used by the villagers. We can see examples of praising the leader of a group as if they are a messiah, and of something known as confirmation bias, which is, by definition, the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories, such as this man believing that his wife returned to him as a result of him embracing Happy-Happyism. When members of Happy-Happyism are further indoctrinated, they start to wear a more recognizable garment. And yes, I'll address the blue elephant in the room. There have been comparisons drawn between these outfits and the robes worn by a real-world white power cult, the Ku Klux Klan. In fact, for the English release of Earthbound, the design for Mother 2 was changed to have a bit less resemblance. The developers removed the large HH on their hoods, which, with the pixelated graphics at the time, could easily be mistaken as a KK, and a little pom-pom was added to the hood to make it seem less like the iconic KKK hood. However, the resemblance still remains rather obvious to some. While the KKK has very different practices and ideals from Happy-Happyism, that is one visual similarity that cannot be overlooked. Blue hooded cultists are generally aggressive and will chase after Ness to attack him upon sight. In fact, they're actually programmed to be impossible to run away from. Wish I had known that during my playthrough, it would have saved me a lot of trouble. As enemy NPCs, they are called insane cultists and utilize paint-based attacks while also being prone to call for backup, causing a risk of them overwhelming the player if they aren't dispatched quickly enough. On the plus side, I love how their battle music has this nice jazzy bass part. One can argue that these enemies represent violent extremism, in which members of cults wish for or actively seek to harm themselves and or others as a result of the ideals imposed by their group. Extremism itself doesn't necessarily equate to violence. The definition of extremism is the holding of extreme religious or political views, or fanaticism. Violent extremism is when a person or group uses fear, terror, or violence to try to make a change. Interestingly enough, not every instance with a blue hooded cultist results in a battle. In the large congregation that blocks the way between Ness and the boss fight with their leader, most of them will be so busy chanting to pay him any mind. A few can be spoken to and asked to move, while only one will move after a brief confrontation. One of the most concerning things that the Happy-Happyists do during the run of the game is kidnap a little girl named Paula. She can use telepathy and has very strong psi powers, which may be why they have been drawn to her. Their intentions for her in the game are a little muddled, as one cultist will claim that Carpenter wants her to be a high priestess, while Everdread in Tucson claims that when Pokey and another cultist kidnapped her, they said that they were going to use her as a human sacrifice. There seems to be some speculation that it might have just been Pokey who wanted to sacrifice Paula, though nothing is confirmed. I would imagine if that was the case, it could have been due to Gygas's ever-growing influence over him. Regardless, going to the lengths of kidnapping a child and imprisoning her would also fall into extremism, and is actually an issue that does sometimes come up with more extreme real-world cults. For example, the Eastern Lightning cult in China was excessively violent and allegedly kidnapped 34 leaders from the Evangelical China Gospel Fellowship and kept them captive for 2 months in an attempt to convert them. The leader, Mr. Carpenter, wears a blue suit and his hair and facial hair are blue as well, although whether this is natural or dyed is unknown. He also appears to wear a dark cap similar to a yarmulke. Like his followers, he has paint-based attacks, but he also has a powerful lightning attack that Ness cannot withstand unless he has already found where Paula is being kept and obtains the Franklin badge. Upon Ness finally reaching Mr. Carpenter and confronting him, he will act happy to see Ness and ask him for his help in making the world blue, even offering to make him his right-hand man. This offer is entirely insincere, as Carpenter will attack regardless of Ness's answer, since he sees him as a threat to the religion. Upon being defeated, Mr. Carpenter will become apologetic, give Ness the key to finally free Paula, and disband the cult for good. As it turns out, he was under a terrible dark influence all along, guys! Of course, this is where things become a lot less realistic in comparison to real-world cults. This is still a game with a lot of fantasy, sci-fi, and even horror elements in it after all. It's still fun to take a look at these as well. Remember that Gygas guy I spoke about earlier? His evil influence is so strong that it is capable of manipulating the evil thoughts of humans and animals. The increasingly dangerous foes that Ness and his friends encounter throughout the game are a result of his influence. One way he is able to spread that power and corrupt others is through an object known as the Mani Mani statue. This mysterious golden idol was first unearthed underneath Onet, the town where Ness's adventure began. If the hunter visits the treasure hunter Lear X Adjurate and follows him when he says he'll show him something, he will show him the Mani Mani statue. He even insinuates that being around the statue for too long might cause Ness to have greedy thoughts, though this may be his own greed making sure Ness doesn't want to take the statue for himself. The statue does seem to cause greed, as within the game it is stolen from its previous owner twice. However, it was first bought from Adjurate by Mr. Carpenter, starting a cycle of corruption as it changed hands again and again. It was after he purchased the statue that Carpenter began acting strangely, forming Happy-Happyism and kidnapping little girls. When that influence was disrupted, he and the town returned to normal, and this cow got a much-needed bath. Unfortunately, disbanding a dangerous group in real life would take a lot more than a kid with a baseball bat. But in the world of Earthbound, Ness has the amazing power to change people's lives through determination and kindness. That is something that we all can strive for, at least. We may not be able to stop a cosmic mind-melting horror, but we can at least be the best we can be for others. You know, that's what I like about Earthbound. It shows us that even in a crazy, scary world where we may feel small and helpless, there's hope. There's a balance of charm and fear that feels very representative of our life journey as we grow up and discover how harsh reality can be for ourselves. It's very moving. I'll go now. Thank you so much for watching. Do you have any fictional cults and media you would like me to take a look at? Drop a comment below with your thoughts and suggestions. I already have my next idea lined up, but I'll be happy to see what you guys would like me to cover in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like button, consider subscribing to my channel, checking me out on Twitter and Facebook, and taking a look at my blog. Everything will be linked down in the description below. Thanks again for helping me pass 100 subscribers and 250 Twitter followers, and I hope to see y'all back in the graveyard very soon. Play me out, copyright infringement!
Yo, listen up, here's the story about a little guy that lives in a blue world. And all day and all night and everything he sees is just blue. Like him, inside and outside. Blue his house with a blue little window and a blue Corvette. And everything is blue for him and himself and everybody around. Cause he ain't got nobody to listen. I'm blue, I've been deed, I've been dying.